Say something, goddammit. You're on television. You're live to the whole world. You're on television. You're live to the whole world. You're on television. You're live to the whole world. You're on television. You're live to the whole world.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Good day or evening to everyone out there in the decoding world. My name is Logan, and this is Decode Your Reality. And today I'm going to be breaking down and decoding The Truman Show. I know some of you have been waiting for this decode, and I'm going to tell you right now, it was totally well worth the wait. I was supposed to come out with the full version of this a few days ago, and after watching the movie again and just getting sucked into this decode, holy schmoly. Folks, this one's going to absolutely blow your freaking doors off. So as I say, get comfortable. It's going to be a long one. I got over 80 slides. I should even be breaking this up into two, but I got over 80 slides. And this one's probably going to be the longest presentation I've ever done because it deserves that kind of recognition. I mean, this movie's a paradox. It's about man being used, and here we are showing that man's being used. And you saw in the beginning of this, I showed the ending scene of the movie. You're live on television. You know, what does all these things mean? And I showed a few things that are linked to that, and I'm going to break those down for all of you today. So put a pair of headphones on. That's my suggestion. Get immersed in this. Block out everything. It's going to be over an hour presentation. And really just kind of pay attention to this one because this one's going to really blow you away. So here are the topics we're going to be discussing during this presentation. In the zero position, of course, the intro, what I'm doing right now. Number one, you're on television. Number two, decoding a few scenes. Number three, Jim Carrey. Of course, we got to decode the star. Number four, the number 57. Number five, dreaming. Life is but a dream, which is what Jim Carrey is in the poster for this movie. Why did they choose this scene right here for the poster for The Truman Show? Number six, Free Truman. Number seven, the guy who kind of created the show, Christoph. There's the Christ. Number eight, the guy who played Christoph, Edward Harris. Number nine, the father-son Gold. Number 10, Sea Haven Island. Number 11, Peter's Fish. And number 12, Exit. And of course, last but not least, what did you see during this presentation? I always love to hear your comments because I miss things or I don't include things and you see them or whatever, but I love hearing all of your comments, so keep them coming. Share this video. Make sure you subscribe. I got so much more good content coming out if you like what you see. So let's start out with this movie coming out in 1998, and I'm going to briefly mention it's, now the year 2020. We're in the year of change. This is the year of change and alchemy. That's what 22 leads to. If you subtract 2020 and 1998, you're going to get 22 years. And it's just interesting how I'm decoding this movie and it's linked to the 22, and the 22 is all over this movie. And I know it has significance because life is fixed and rigged, and I'm supposed to be doing a decode on this, and you're supposed to be watching this to get the bird's eye view of how this matrix really works. This world really works. So, the guy who directed the movie, it was Peter Lindsay Weir. And the reason why I have the upside down cross here, folks, if you've been following this research, this is St. Peter's cross. The upside down cross. And it has everything to do with the Truman Show. And this guy's name is Peter. And I know you're probably thinking, wow, how do you make those connections? Just hang on to your seats, because I promise you're going to see the connections. Make no mistake about it, there are no accidents. Everything is completely fixed and rigged. This guy was supposed to direct the movie, as was, the guy who wrote it. But nonetheless, here is where the upside down cross comes into play. Many people think it's a satanic symbol, and of course it does have satanic roots to it now because people use it for satanic purposes, which is just demonizing everything. But nonetheless, notice that in numerology, upside down is 49. This symbol is upside down. And down is 22 and Truman is 22. We're in the upside down world, folks. Make no mistake about it. We are all linked to this upside down cross. And then if you bring pi into this, which I've shown how accurate this is, pi, the measurement of a circle, because the upside down cross is pi. It's the infinite potential of Earth, where we're at. And in the string of pi, the 49 appears at the 57th decimal digit, which is a complete direct link to the word The Truman Show, the actual movie title itself. And it's linked to the upside down cross, which is linked to the guy who directed it, because Peter's his first name, and that is the symbol for the upside down cross. I mean, your jaw should be on the floor right now. And we haven't even got into the presentation really just yet, but this is really telling the story. Remember the word current, the word currency, as in the gold current, that's the number 27. The word dragon, the dragon card, is linked to the number 27. Dragon is 22. Michael's 22. It's all connected, folks. Man's being used. This is no exception here. This guy, his card of illumination, I've been showing how accurate these cards are. The 52 cards in a deck. And you're going to have some of these cards attached to your birthday. And you should know your cards now, because I've been showing this for years now. And how accurate these cards are in describing our matrix reality and whatnot. But nonetheless, this guy's card, he was born on August 21st. Here is this card, the 5 clubs card. It's the 18th card in the deck. And how I got that, let me show you real quick. Here are the cards. Here are all the suits. Hearts is first, clubs is second, diamonds is third, spades is fourth. Fire, air, water, earth. So this guy has the 5 clubs card. There it is, the 18th card in the deck. And what's so interesting about that is when you go to the numerology here and you see that Jesus equals the number 18. And, this guy directed the movie. And we know St. Peter is directly tied to the character Jesus in theology. He was casting the nets over the side of the boat to catch the fish. And the fish that's us, folks. We're the fish. They're trying to catch us as fish. That's what this whole movie's about. And this guy's card is the Jesus Christ card, tied to St. Peter, the upside down cross. How about that? The guy that wrote the movie, the screenplay, Andrew Nichol. I hope I pronounced that right. If I didn't, my apologies. His card is the 7 diamonds. He was born on June 10th. What's fascinating about this card, it's the 33rd card in the deck. And what age in the story of the Christ was Jesus crucified at? 33. 33 steps, 33 vertebrae leading up to our crucifixion when it goes into the brain, up to the pineal gland. And this guy who wrote The Truman Show is tied to the Christ. So not only do you have the guy that wrote the screenplay, but you got the guy who directed it. Both of them tied to the Christ. And folks, you go even further with this, and their two cards are 57 or 75, depending on your perspective. And that's the title of the movie in numerology. 57. And the director and the writer's cards are 57? How's that possible? Because you see, folks, the game of life is fixed. It's rigged. Man is being used for entertainment. We're being used for energetic food. I've been saying this over and over. Some of you don't want to believe that. And that's okay. I'm not here to force anything. These are just my opinions and truths. But I'm backing it up with so many layers to support my opinion and truth. And remember, folks, this is also tied to the 88 constellations above our head, because the Royal Arch in Masonry is the first 7 zodiac signs, Aries through Libra, and then the other 5 that complete the circle, 7 and 5. The fall of man happens at the 7th position. So this is tied to the constellations, and we're going to get into the constellations once we get into the St. Peter's Cross, because it has everything to do with this. So look at going even further, look at the timestamp of these guys' birthdays. Not going by their years, but just the day on the calendar. This guy was born on June 10th, the writer of the movie, and then Peter Weir, the director, was born on August 21st. And when you do the timestamp in between these two guys, it's 72 days. When you go even further, it's 2 months and 11 days. And we know through numberempire.com that the number 211 is the 47th prime number. And we know 47 is what? The Tetragrammaton, the ancient Israelite God of the Taurian Bible, the Holy Bible, the Torah. So it's based in Judaism and Christianity. And these guys are tied directly to it based upon their timestamps. There's no accidents. There's no coincidences. And I'm not trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, because I got way more to show you to support what I'm saying here. When you do the numerology of their full birth names, it equals the number 101, and 101, of course, is tied to the number 44, because that's ruthenium, the element, and 44 is gold current. But notice the 101, it's the 26 prime number, and this is the original spelling of the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, the Tetragrammaton, the ancient Israelite God of the Bible. How about that? So, you have the 47th prime Tetragrammaton with their timestamps, and then you have it with their numerology and their birth names. The subtleties, the full numerology of their birth names is 28 letters. What is 28? 28 is tied to the 57. It's tied to nickel, because nickel has an atomic weight of 57, and nickel is the 28th element. Nickel's the 28th element, folks. So you can clearly see that the Tetragrammaton is linked to the Christ. It's linked to Lucifer. They're all in bed together. They're all tied together, folks, sucking the energy out of people. So going to the beginning of this presentation, I had thrown in the ending scene, which has so much importance in this. And, Ed Harris playing Christoph, he said, well, say something. You're on television. You're live in front of the whole world. And that's why I had put this card up here. Because you see, you're on television is 73 in numerology, and that's the 21st prime number. And he says, you're live in front of the whole world. 21 and 73 are tied together. And again, the script writer, do you think he's sitting down and do you realize how crazy that sounds? To think somebody who's writing the screenplay to a movie would have to sit down and embed all the words that you're casting on the paper for these actors to say, and then sitting down with Number Empire and trying to figure out the primes and then tying it to the tarot card. Do you realize how insane I sound when I try to narrate and say that? That's exactly what would be happening. Folks, there's no possible way that man is doing anything. Man is being used. And again, to what level, I don't know. So I had shown this as well, and that's because, you're live in front of the whole world. And, that is tied to this element right here. The 64th element is gadolinium. And the Royal Society of Chemistry, they use this icon for this element, a television. And I have the DNA in the background, our double helix, because we have 64 possible codons in our DNA, which is where the fish comes in. And it's tied to Jupiter and tied to tin, because tin's the merger of worlds, and tin fits right into this DNA. And this is our Jesus Lucifer, the double helix, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. Fits inside of our DNA. And it's tied to television. And remember, how many fish did Peter catch when he threw the nets overboard? 153. It's tied to this movie, and it's all about the fish. I mean, in the ancient Torah, the Old Testament, the book of Jonah was all about getting swallowed by a big fish and then getting thrown up on the shore. That stupid story. It's an allegory, folks. Fish. And of course, Jonah lived in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. 33. Folks, you just got to see through the story. It's a story. So, the exiting part of this, before Jim Carrey walks through the door, he says, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And, the numerology on that is 384. And when you go into the string of pi, it appears at the 17th decimal digit, 17, 18, and 19, but it starts at the 17th digit. And that is massive because, folks, the 17 itself is tied to the fish, which is what we are. We're fish. We're 2 lost souls swimming in a fishbowl. If you haven't seen my decode on Wish You Were Here, please check it out. Goldfish are the most kept aquarium fish. We live in an aquarium, folks. We're being mined for gold. We're being used for food. We're kept as pets for entertainment. That's really a way to observe all of this. I mean, there it is. In case I don't see you. When he exits the stage, he makes that statement. And again, do you think the guy who wrote this actually sat down with the numerology and then pi and said, yeah, he's got to say this as his statement before he leaves the world stage? Hell no, he didn't do that. There's no way. But again, man's being used. Man's being used. And, that's really fascinating with Jim Carrey because he was born on January 17th, as in fish, as in gold, as being mined for gold. And remember, the whole story of the Truman Show was being used for entertainment, for the world to see. Folks, what do you think we are? We're being used, folks. And I know as far-fetched as that may be for some of you, I'm proving it with multiple layers that are real intangible in our world. Real intangible. So, Jim Carrey, look at this. The guy was born on the 17th of January, 1962. And when you do what's called his life path, in numerology, it's when you take your full birthday, and you should know what your life path is, and you add up all the digits. So here is all of his digits added up. You break them all down, and look at what it equals. 27. It reduces to a 9. So Jim Carrey is really a life path number 9, which is all about humanitarianism. But it's a 27 for its compound, meaning 2. That's tied to the dragonfly card, which is tied to the word current and currency, which is where gold current comes into play. This guy's all about being mined for his gold, the energy that he collects through the world stage. Now we get into some of the screenshots of the movie itself. I'm going to just show a few. I mean, I could have went gangbusters with this. But, you know, here is the standout. I mean, this is the 8-ball. And if you don't know what the 8-ball toy is, go Google it. It's got a pyramid inside of it. It's blue. The liquid's, well, it's actually, the liquid is like more of an indigo color, representing the third eye. And it's in the movie subtly right there. Here's another subtlety, free-range Kaiser chicken. That equals the number 74. Of course, that's tied to the Christ because we know, again, Jesus is 74 in the English. 74 means illumination. It's tied to tungsten. It's tied to arsenic, tied to the 33 steps. The subtleties, it's 22 letters tied to Truman itself. And then, of course, the big K is the standout, and that is the number 2. And the number 2 is tied to Venus. Venus is the second planet in the cards of illumination. Venus is tied to Taurus because Taurus is the second astrology sign, and that's tied to orange. And both of those are part of our reproductive organ systems. If you take the Taurus bull and you place it over the female reproductive system, it's identical. Venus and Taurus are a match. They are number 2. Number 2. So here's another one. How's it going to end? This is another big one for the movie. How's it going to end? And when you do the numerology of that, it equals the number 70. And 70 in the string of pi appears at the 96th decimal digit. Yeah, it's going to end in black and white. It's going to end in do-over, reset, right back to square one again. Duality, folks. We live in duality. We live in the upside-down world because we're all part of that St. Peter's story, which is why the Pope in the Vatican is St. Peter. Here's the hospital that Jim Carrey... You want to talk about more syncs and why band's being used, folks? Here it is. This is the hospital that Jim Carrey was born in. It was formerly called York County Hospital, which is why I highlighted it in red. Now it's called South Lake. But it was York County Hospital when he was born into it in 1962. It's the number 70 as well, which is the yin-yang, folks. How about that? How's it going to end? Of the movie The Truman Show? Well, it's going to end where the beginning is because the guy was born in a yin-yang hospital. Because it's the 70s tied to the 96. It opened in 1922. Truman is 22. Truman is 22. No accidents, folks. And for good measure, here's the latitude, longitude. I've been showing how accurate that you should know your birth city and your latitude, longitude, where you live right now. All those things you can be used to decoding yourself, and it's one of the greatest things you can do. Because see, the game of life is fixed. So if it's fixed, you got to know all the tools of your trade, man. You got to know all your powers, and some of you don't know half of what's going on in your life. Got to study yourself, decode yourself. That's why I love doing readings for people, because I get to show them their true power. But notice the latitude, longitude of the South Lake Regional Healthcare Center, formerly the York County Hospital, where Jim Carrey was born, 44 degrees north and 79 degrees west. And, you know, if you've seen my decode, if you haven't seen it, please watch it on gold current. That equals the number 44, and then gold itself is 79. There it is right there, folks, on the hospital that Jim Carrey was born in. How about that? And he's the fish, the goldfish. And that's what Truman is all about, the fish being used. Here's the actual, this is what I found out, all my research, this is the house that Jim Carrey grew up in. This is all I could find. It was actually part of this factory, and this is the address that I found for this. Again, the subtleties, 28 letters, that's tied to 57, because Nikola has an atomic weight of 57. The Truman Show is 57. James Eugene Carey is 57. And, here it is. I mean, the full numerology of his childhood address is 121, and that's tied to the all-seeing eye of Horus, antimony. And even antimony equals 28 in numerology, matching that of the letters of his birth address, or I should say his childhood address, the all-seeing eye. And when you go a little bit further with this, that's where you get into the alchemology of James Eugene Carey. Again, if you're new to this, alchemology is just taking the numerology, the letters, and then bringing it into the numbers of numerology. And then the third layer is then tying it into the respected elements of the periodic table tied to the numbers. So James Eugene Carey, the subtleties, 17 letters. The word fish equals 17. The word gold equals 17. And I showed the hospital. Let me just backtrack here. Look at this. The hospital he was born in has gold in the latitude, longitude, and gold current for the north latitude. And this guy's full name is 17 letters, matching gold and fish. The alchemology of James Eugene Carey ends up becoming 120.152. 120 is yet again tied to the element antimony, the all-seeing eye of Horus. That's what the Royal Society, they used to use antimony under their eyes for mascara in the Egyptian times. That's all I'm going off of what the Royal Society of Chemistry says and what history tells us. And notice that the isotope 121, which is this right here, this element, which is tied to his alchemology, the abundance of it is 57%, which is tied to the full numerology of his name, which is tied to the Truman Show, because Truman Show equals 57, which is tied to the cards of the writer and director of the movie. Folks, it's just silly now. It's absolutely silly. Here's the show, here's the TV show that started it all for Jim Carrey, In Living Color. In Living Color, and it's a 47, which is Tetragrammaton. This is the show that started his career. This is the show that started his career. I mean, think of the show's name, In Living Color. Folks, we're the light spectrum. And color's 22, matching that of Truman. Truman's 22. Color. And, the first episode was on April 15th. April 15th, the card of that is the 6 diamonds card. And the counterpart to that is the 3 spades. And how I found that, and I'm going to be showing this, folks, because this is really, really important. Here's the boilerplate chart for the cards. Here's your ego spread. This is your ego. And then here's your spirit or your soul, or how your mind works. And these are 2 batteries. And here is, the first episode was the 6 diamonds. Here it is. And the counterpart to that, if you go over here, the mirror of that in the ego chart is the 3 spades. So these 2 cards are in bed together. And of course, they're in the Saturn line. Of course. But I wanted to show you that because it has everything to do with this presentation and the Truman Show, and we're going to be getting into especially this one, hot and heavy. But I want you to remember these 2 cards. This is what started his career off. And the first episode is tied to the 6 diamonds and the 3 spades, which are tied to the upside down cross. So I posted this as a little teaser on the sneak peek of the Truman Show, and notice, it's a 57. That's directly tied to this guy's birth name, James Eugene Carey, 57. And that is tied to this card right here in the tarot, the ancient tarot system. This card can be observed in not just the 57, but also the 56 and 58. It actually goes one or two ways. These cards encroach upon one another. But in the spread that I use primarily, it's card 57, which is tied to the Truman Show. And this card is all about being trapped and limited. Trapped and limited. What do you think this movie's all about, folks? I mean, do you see how massive this is? How much this describes what this movie's all about? If you've seen the movie, it's being trapped and limited. When you bring in the cards of illumination, the counterpart to the Eight of Swords, this is called the Eight of Swords. Look at the symbology of this. Let me zoom in, folks. Look at the symbology on this card. Blindfolded, wrapped up, trapped and limited. Truman. The 8 spades is the 8 of swords. Spades means swords. And look at what number card it is, folks. 47, which is the tetragram. The ancient Israeli god of the Taurian Bible, it's the tetragrammaton. 47, which just means the box. Tetra means 4, and it's the box that we live in. There's the box right there, the box. What is the shape of a television? A box. It's a square. It's a square. So, this is what they're showing for the poster of the movie. Sleeping. And row, row, row your boat gently down a stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. That's tied to tin, which is tied to the tetragrammaton, which is tied to Jupiter, which is tied to Saturn, Father, Son, which runs this reality, in my opinion, which is tied to pi. Because you see, the number 50 appears at the 31st decimal digit. What is pi, folks? Pi is 3.14, but it's 3.1 because we're living a dream. And we go down the hole. That's why I have this spiral here. We go down into wonderland as we fall asleep. When you awaken, you see what this world really is and how it works, which is what we're going through right now. And that's all linked to pi. The third eye. Your third eye is the most important thing you have, which is why they try to calcify it through all the modes of like fluoride. You all know all this kind of stuff. But here's the actual, the guy who discovered or founded or brought pi to the world. Archimedes, a Greek mathematician. If you go read about this guy, he's one of the greatest minds ever. I mean, look at what his name is in numerology. 33. And if you add up 33, 3 plus 3, what does that equal? 6. Well, what chakra is the 6th chakra? It's the third eye. It's the Anja. It's the most important chakra because if you cloud that, you will not be able to see right. Because our eyes deceive us. I told you, those are your Satans. The black suns you have 2 of those. When you look in the mirror and you look, your 2 pupils. What is a pupil? It's a student. But they will give you so much deception. It's the third eye that has to really awaken. And this guy, according to history, he was born in 287 BC. 287 in the string of pi. Look at what number it's linked to. I mean, that's absolutely fascinating. Folks, I was going to bring him into this because his death date is, but there's just too many slides. I'm going to be decoding the third eye, the pineal gland. Wait till you should see his death, what it's tied to. It's crazy, but this says it all. And it's all about this, the dream. The dream is tied to pi, which is tied to a third eye. Pi, third eye, the pineal gland. Pineal is the third eye, which is tied to the snake and the serpent. And the lover's card. This is the 6th card in the deck, tied to pineal. Here, right there, the male, female, is your left and right brain. I mean, this is your pineal. You could say this is your pineal gland and this is your right eye or left eye, or however you kind of look at it. Tree of life, tree of knowledge. Right eye, left eye, third eye. That's why there's the trinity right here, the triangle, which is tied to the number 6, which is tied to the 33 and pi. I mean, the 155 is directly tied to pi, and the lovers, when you put all the things that are expressing itself on this card, the V and the 1, the Roman numerals, and then the lovers, and you do the numerology, you're going to get 155, which is tied to pi, because 155 is found at the 314th decimal digit of pi. And this is the 6th card. And the third eye is pi. This is pi right here, which is why it's called the lovers. And then, the subtleties. Here's the Y, pi and Y. And then the V and the I could even be right there. If you break up the V and the I are tied to the Y. It's tied to the Truman Show, folks. So let's get into Free Truman. This was a big part of the movie. Those that were watching the show, that were stuck to the TV watching it, who's watching us? They were all about freeing Truman. Free Truman. That equals the number 42. That equals the number 42, which is fascinating because you see, I showed this tied to In Living Color, remember? Tied to the 6 of diamonds right here. 6 of diamonds, and then the 3 spades in the upside down cross position, and we're going to be getting into that, but that has everything to do with this. Free Truman is tied to the 3 spades card. This is the card of St. Peter. It's in the Saturn and Jupiter line, father, son. I'm going to be showing that. So Free Truman is 42, but here is a more accurate version, or a better focused version of the upside down cross. And I showed this during the sneak peek. The upside down cross right there. And it's in the Saturn line and it's in the Jupiter line. These planets run vertically and horizontally. So it's the father-son line, and the very dead center, the bullseye, is tied to Free Truman. The upside down world. In Living Color, first episode, upside down world, tied to the Tetragrammaton. See how that works, folks? No accidents. Tied to the Truman Show, Free Truman. Even when you say, if you do it this way, there's another way you can do it. 3 of spades, 42. It's the 42nd card in the deck. And, I'm just so you don't think that I'm trying to pull the woolly over your eyes, there it is. 3 of spades is the 42nd card in the deck. And then if you take the 6 of spades, which is his counterparts, the 32nd card of the deck, when you add up 32 and 42, what are you going to get? 74. And I already showed that's illumination. Tied to tungsten. It's where the Illuminati got their names from. The counterpart to the 3 spades and the tarot is the 3 of swords. Here it is. What would happen when you go down in the upside down world and you get stuck in the box? Heartbreak. I mean, this card symbolically says it all, and it's the 52nd card in the deck. 52 and 53, or 51, depending on your perception of it. But 52 is linked to tellurium, which means earth, because the 52nd element is called tellurium and it means earth. And, when you go to the Royal Society of Chemistry, and, here it is. Tellurium, look at the icon they have. They have a little earth, a globe. It means earth. Tellurium comes from the word tellus, and that means earth. And that means earth. And the thing is, the 52nd card in the deck is the king of spades. It's the king of the earth. This means earth. Spades means earth, folks. Fire, air, water, earth. This is the earth suit. This is the earth suit. And why this is so important, you see the spade is pointing upwards. And then the counterpart is the heart, which is pointing downwards. Fire starts first, and then earth is last. Earth, we want to go up. You want to go up. Ascension. So, the 42nd card in the deck is the 3 spades, tied to the Free Truman. And this is really, this makes me laugh. 42nd element is molybdenum, and that means lead. And we turn into lead as we go into the upside down world. We go from spirit to physical matter, which is lead, and that's where you get alchemy, and that's where you get lead into gold. Being mined for our energetic gold. Free Truman, because he's lead of the earth. See how that works? Jim Carrey. His full birth name, of course, matches the Truman Show, but what they had on the poster, what he goes by professionally is Jim Carrey. And notice it's a number 20, which is tied to the judgment card. And if you understand or understand all of the discoveries that we've been making with all these decodes, folks, the number 20 is tied to the element calcium, which makes up our bones, tied to the judgment card. In that story of being judged by our actions through our calcium, through our bones. Truman Burbank is what he went by in the movie. Truman's 22. Now, some people like to use the Fool card. It's the 0, but notice the 0 there, but they like to put it in the 22nd position. It kind of represents being the fool, going down and being the fool. Truman is the fool. So this fits in nicely in the way you perceive this reality using the Fool as card number 22. Burbank is a 20. The fool, how would you interpret this? The fool getting judged based upon his actions in the upside down world. So is there any merit to that story about us being used for food and then us being judged by our actions to go back to source? Is that possible? Is that really the true story of what's going on? And is that what this is telling us? When you bring in the elements of the periodic table, Truman, of course, is titanium. Titanium is linked to Saturn because Saturn's moon is Titan. And if you go into Greek mythology, it's all about the Olympians and the Titans. And what happened in that great war? The Olympians won and they threw the Titans down in Tartarus, which would mean Earth, which would link to the fallen angels. See how that story fits into this narrative. Michael and Dragon, they all equal the number 22. And war broke out. Michael and the Dragon fought. They both 22. Tied to titanium, which is tied to the tetragrammaton because tetragrammaton is 47, which is tied to the tree of knowledge because the tree of knowledge is 47. And that's the whole purpose of the story is biting the apple. Deception. Going down, 47 to me is the box. Going down into the box. Going down into the box. Going down into sleep. Not knowing where you are, why you're here. And then the judgment of that at the very end. Burbank. Truman Burbank. Your last name, you should know what your last name is through the Chaldean in the numerology. And besides the alchemology, you should know what the numerology is of your last name. You inherited that last name. Comes from somewhere. It's going to tell you the story more about who you are and why you're here. Truman, when you say true man, Truman is a 2-syllable word. Here's another layer you can observe it from, breaking this down into its proper syllables. True man. True is 12. Man is 10. So, we're all men and women. Women and men. Man. We're all 10. We're all spinning the wheel. That's what this interpretation means. We all spin the wheel. And the Yod-Heh-Vah is on here, on this 10th card, which is the X, which is the number 25, which is tied to our chromosomes. It's tied to manganese, which means magnet. And then, the 12 cards, the hangman. True man, the hangman. Truman. The Truman Show, the Hangman Show. That's what this means. St. Peter's Cross. When you look at the subtleties, there's so much more I can add to this, folks, but, this is what was on the poster. Day 10,909, it would tell you how old he is, what his age is. So, when you use the Gregorian calendar, if you could also do the solar lunar and the pi calendar, which is 360, but, 365, you divide that by the number of days that's on the poster for the movie, and you're going to get 29.88. So this is what they're indicating what his age is, 29. And then, of course, there's the number of time travel, the number of the Christ, 88 constellations, 88 keys on a piano, 29 on the masculine in numberempire.com. It's the 10th prime number, tied once again to the Wheel of Fortune, tied to man. See how that works, folks? See how that works? Jim Carrey even did some other movies that were wrapped around God. He did one called Bruce Almighty, where he actually got to be God. And, he was doing the emails. If you've seen this movie, he had to answer all these emails to all these people's prayers. And look at what they displayed out there. Yahweh. As in the Yod, as in the Tetragrammaton. Folks, this guy is being used by the Tetragrammaton. That's why he got these things. Maybe he deserved it. I don't know. If we talk about karma, and that whole aspect of we get placed in this avatar based upon our past life and the karma that we have to pay off. Is that really what's going on? And if that's being the case, think of the position this guy's in and what he's achieved. Did he get put in this position because he deserved it from a past life? Is that what we're seeing? But clearly they're saying that that's the God that runs this world. And it's based on, and folks, if you go decode this, if you go decode Yahoo and the founders, man's being used, folks. Man is being used. The release date of this movie, Bruce Almighty, was July 18th. There's the subtlety. 18 is linked to Jesus. Jesus equals 18 in numerology. But it's the 199th day of the year. And 166 days remain. And the 199 in pi, folks, look at where it's found. The 704th decimal digit, and what's 74? Illumination. Tungsten. Which is called wolfram, which is tied to the wolf, which we're going to be getting into because that's tied to the devil card. But when you subtract the two, 199 and 166, I'll let you do that. What are you going to get? But I think the big standout, folks, is the 166. The 199 leaves 166 days that remain. And of course, that word right there through the English equals the number 166. Equals the number 166. So I think it's pretty clear. Man's being used. Make no mistake about it. Man is being used. So then we get into Christoph, the guy who created the show, The Truman Show, who was actually living on the moon, doing all the directing from the moon. That's a story in itself. The moon. The moon's tied to Jesus. The moon card is the 18th card. Jesus is 18 in numerology. And this guy was the creator of the show, The Truman Show. And I'm going to be decoding Ed Harris in a minute. Hold on, folks. This one's going to blow you away. You should already be on the floor right now. You have so many aha and wow moments. Christoph through Chaldean is 33. Which, look, I go back up here. If you subtract those two, what do you get? 33. 33, folks. 33 is tied to arsenic, which is tied to the Christ, and Lucifer, because these two which are supposedly opposing forces, are tied to that 33. And this guy's 33. When you go further, and I showed this really quickly, I've shown this, I gotta show it again. This is a huge discovery of mine that I found. And maybe some of you already knew it, but it was a massive discovery for me, and that's because the 33 is tied to the 24 and 25, which is tied to our chromosomes. 33 is found at the 24th and 25th decimal digit of pi. That's our chromosomes. And this guy's name in the movie is 33, tied to the chromosomes. The producer of the show, The Truman Show, using Truman for entertainment. Think about that. This guy was using Truman for entertainment for the world to see. What's using us for entertainment? Is it so far-fetched to believe that? Through the English, Christoph is a 98. Through the string of pi, 98 is found at the 80th and 81st decimal digits of pi. Starts at the 80, but it also occupies the 81st position. Folks, in the original biblical spelling of the Tree of Life and Tree of Knowledge, you go ahead and go fact check this. Type in Tree of Life Biblical, and you'll find the original Hebrew spellings, which is linked to the Torah, which is linked to the ancient Israelite God of the Bible, the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh. The Tree of Life is 80 when you spell out tree and life, and the Tree of Knowledge is 81. So it's 46 and 47, which I've shown so many times. But it's if you go by and put the word tree in there, it changes it to 80 and 81, which when you add up 80 and 81, folks, that's what you're going to get right there. That's called the golden ratio, which goes to gold current. And all of us being mined for our energetic gold. Pretty crystal clear. And this guy's playing a deity in the movie. When you do his alchemology, Edward Allen Harris, notice the subtleties, it's also a 17-letter word, just like James Eugene Carey. His total numerology is 53. That's tied to the element iodine. Iodine is tied to the 47, which is tetragrammaton. I've shown this so many times. It's part of the I am that I am. I and am. It's iodine and americium. Those two elements. But this guy has iodine. And if you've seen my decode on the gut decoded, it's the throat chakra and the solar plexus. Father, son. When you do his alchemology, 17 elements tied to the 17 numbers and letters, going over to the trusty calculator. Look at what you get. 111. You know, there's some big things that equal the number 111, which I haven't shown yet. The founder of the Jehovah's Witness Church, Charles Taze Russell, his alchemology equals the number 111. The founder of the Latter-day Saints Church, Joseph, his name equals the number 111 in alchemology. Big time names linked to this 111. And that's because of this right here, folks. You see, pi always is going to tell you the story, and we live on pi, the infinite circle. Look at where the 111 appears, folks, at the 153rd decimal digit of pi, and that's tied to the GD element. And refresh your memory again. How many fish did Peter catch when he threw the nets overboard when Jesus told him to throw on the right side of the boat? 153. There it is, right there. And this guy's alchemology's tied to it. When he's playing the architect called Christoph. That's why they use the name Christ. Pretty crystal clear. Tied to gold currency. I mean, it's just... This is really where it gets super interesting, folks, because you see, Ed Harris had a huge role in the show on HBO called Westworld. And if you've never seen this show, I'm going to highly suggest that you go see it. Go watch it. It's based off of a movie, but the show and the movie is all about man being used. I mean, here's pi. You see that this is their logo. There's pi right there, representing Earth. There's the crucifixion, and there's the W, and the W is the Triple Crown number, or letter, because this is the 23rd letter, and 23 equals crown and blood and history. And you'd fit 3 crowns right here, the Triple Crown. That's why in sports there's called the Triple Crown winner. It's linked to the word crown, W, which is linked to the element tungsten, which is linked to the 74 and illumination. This show is all about man being used, just like the Truman Show. And this guy was a star in the show? Huh. All right, well, let's blow you away even some more, folks. Let me show you the connections of Ed Harris, who played Christoph, who was using Jim Carrey for entertainment for the world to see. Let's show you the connections of these two. Ready to get blown away? Here we go. Here are the birthdays of Harris and Carrey, and here's the timestamp. Not using the years, just the days on the calendar. Carrey born on the January 17th, Ed Harris on November 28th. That's a result of 315 days. What do you see there? 315, isn't that 153? Totally. Tied to the fish. Jim Carrey was born on the 17th, tied to the fish, tied to the goldfish. When you take 64 digits in the string of pi, here are all the 64 of them, and you add them all up, you're going to get the number 315. That matches exactly the timestamp of these two guys' births, matching the upside down cross and Jesus' story of the fish they caught in the New Testament. How about that? How about that, folks? Make no mistake, there's no denying this stuff, because I'm not trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Oh, no, I'm not. You should really be blown away right now. I am blown away. Because that's what Jim Carrey is. He's a fish. That's what we are. We're fish. This guy's being mined for his gold, his energy. You know how much energy this guy got to collect over his lifetime and still is doing that? There it is, 1717. Goldfish. It's tied to the 34. Which we're going to get into. But anyway, here is the elements that represent each of these guys' birthdays. Harris born on the 28th. That's nickel. Remember, Truman Show equals 57. James Eugene Carey equals 57. And this guy was born on the 28th, which is the protons in nickel, called Devil's Copper. And Jim Carrey, of course, he was born on the 17th, tied to the element chlorine, which is 34. And remember, folks, that's goldfish. That's goldfish. Chlorine is goldfish. 17 is the total numbers in the rainbow, total colors in the rainbow, 1 through 7, red through violet. We're light beings. We're goldfish. If you take 28 and 17 and you subtract their atomic weights, 57 minus 34, subtract these two right here, what are you going to get, folks? Take that right there and subtract it. Grab your calculator. Pull it out and add and subtract those two weights right there, and let's see what you get. Right there. Truman. How about where these guys were born? The cities they were born in, the numerology on those. He was born in Englewood, New Jersey, or Englewood, Ed Harris was, and Carrey was born in Newmarket in Canada. Englewood and Newmarket. Gold. Goldfish. It gets ridiculous. It's a lot of fun, but it gets ridiculous. Here's the total numerology of their birthdays. Jim Carrey's, Ed Harris. It's a 54. And, That's tied to current and currency. Current and currency is 54. You see, here's Jim Carrey's numerology. This is his life path. Remember, he's a 27/9. Ed Harris is the same thing, 27/9. Current is 27. Currency is 27. That would be gold, folks. The gold current. The gold current. And when you bring in the string of pi of these guys' 2 birthdays, their life paths, they're both a 9, but the compound is a 27/27. That's 54. 54 is found at the 191st decimal digit of pi. That's tied to the Wizard of Oz, tied to the yellow brick road, which is gold. See how that works, folks? So, going a little further with James Eugene Carey, remember the subtleties. He's got 17 letters, which is linked to the words gold and fish. He's got a life path of 27, which is linked to the word current and gold. 27, which is linked to gold and current. It's found at the 28th and 29th decimal digits of pi. And if you take 28 and you add 29, you're going to get the number 57. Gold current. Goldfish. So, then you can do the numerology of their names. Notice the subtleties. Edward Allen Harris, James Eugene Carey, 34 letters. Folks, again, go back. 34 is goldfish. Being mined for gold, folks. Their total numerology through the English is 347. 347 is the 69th prime number, which is the yin-yang. Tied to the goldfish. Tied to our duality. So then you bring in their cards, folks. I showed you the writer and the producer of the show. Here is the guy who's playing the architect and the guy who's being used. And Ed Harris was born on November 28th. That's the 5 of Hearts card. The counterpart of that is the 4 diamonds. Now, just so you know, I'm not trying to pull the woolly over your eyes. The 5 Hearts card and the 4 diamonds. Here's the 5 Hearts card, Ed Harris's birthday. And then going over here to the life spread, the Master Spirit spread, there's the 4 diamonds. So these are the mirror of one another. Tied together. You have 2 cards that are tied together as well. You should know those. But here are Ed Harris's cards. 5 hearts, 4 diamonds. It's kind of funny. This is one of the Jack in the Box cards. Founder of Jack in the Box is 4 diamonds. But nonetheless, here are the 2 cards for Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey has the same card as Prince. 10 diamonds card, which means fortunate blessings. And his counterpart card is the Queen Clubs card, tied to the X chromosomes. 25 is the letter X. When you add up all 4 of those cards, 30 plus 5 plus 25 plus 36, right there using the trusty calculator, look what you get, folks. The yin-yang once again. Matching that of their name numerology through the prime numbers. I mean, it's clear, folks, we're being used. So the best thing you can do is to figure out what makes you function, what your cards are, what your astrology chart means, the decoding of who you are. If you need help with that, that's what I do. I do readings. It's one of the greatest things you can do for yourself because it's where your power comes in. When you know what cards you are and your numerology and your life path and your human design, your personality, all these components will give you your instruction manual on how you're going to function best in this world that we call life, the game of life that we're playing. Then we get into Sea Haven Island. You see, folks, he was on an island. Once again, folks, Sea Haven Island is the island he was on, which was shot in Florida. That's pi. Sea Haven is pi, 3.1. Island is 17, that's fish. Pi fish is what it means. There it is right there. And of course, he was deathly afraid of water, because this is the terminology of what it means to be deathly afraid of water. Aquaphobia. 33. He had to overcome that to ascend. Think of the story of this. he had to get on a boat and go over water to get to the exit. That was the way he would win the game of life. And he had to overcome his fear, which is described as aquaphobia. 33. So the interpretation of this is, this was his ascension. To exit was to overcome what they instilled in him. And this is, folks, make no mistake about it, this is a game we're playing. You're playing a freaking game. That's what all this stuff means. We're playing a game. You got to overcome your phobias. That's why all these things get thrown in your life. And if you haven't seen the show The Good Place, you should go watch it because there's truth in that. It's like we're being played with. We're being played with. I mean, look at this. Fish in the English is 42. That's a match of Free Truman. This guy was under bondage in the movie. Free the fish. Off of Sea Haven Island, which is where they wanted to keep him, in prison. The fish in the aquarium. This is where he wanted to go. Was Fiji. Look at the freaking coordinates of Fiji on the latitude, longitude. It's fish. When you add up the latitude, longitude of Fiji, 17 plus 178, you're going to get 195. That's the 417th decimal digit. That's tied to Lucifer, the fallen angel, the fallen ones, the fish. You can't screw this up when you start to discover and see it and open up your third eye. This was in the movie. This was on the set of the movie. I shouldn't say on the set, but on the moon of where they were controlling Truman. In one of the scenes, there it is. There's the dome. This is what we live on, folks. This is my opinion, by the way, and I'm not saying anything about, again, I'm not saying about globe and flat or concave. I'm not interested in that. I just know that we live inside of an aquarium. I already know that's to be true. We have a dome over our head. Anyway, Sea Haven. Sea. We're in the sea of space. Look at the number that C is. It's a 351. That's tied to the element that links to fish. Cast your nets overboard, St. Peter. Catch yourself 153 fish in the sea. We're fish in the sea of space. We don't breathe water like fish do, but we have lungs that breathe air, and it's got precipitation in it, which means it has water in it. And then Haven is a 22, matching that of Truman. You see the subtleties, but really important, especially this. This was massive when I found it. This was a huge aha moment for me. 153, the fish, sea and the fish. Fish are in the sea of space. And that gets into the upside down cross and St. Peter and Truman. And this has everything to do with you. This has everything to do with me and everybody else that's playing this game of life. And I created this graphic because it was really important to do so. And these are the constellations, the zodiac. I mean, remember, there are 88 constellations in the night sky, matching the 88 keys on a piano. You think that's by accident? Matching the number of time travel and Back to the Future, matching that to the number of the Christ. I mean, the word chronos in the Greek equals 88. Who's governing over the constellations? The constellations, folks, are Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. That's where that song, The Beatles, came from. It means the constellations. The stars are the diamonds in the sky, which is tied to Lucifer. Tied to the story of the fallen angels. Nonetheless, here are the 12 zodiac signs. And if you fancy the Freemasonry and the Royal Arch, there's a lot of truth to that. You have 7 and 5. The Freemasonry Arch is Aries through Libra, and then that leaves Scorpio through Pisces. But it's always 7 and 5. So this is obviously a different rendition of it, but here are 7 and then here are 5. Just not in the same order of the arch. But I'm showing it this way because this is the 12th sign. Pisces, the fish, the 2 goldfish. We're 2 lost souls swimming in a fishbowl. That's what Pink Floyd sang. And they may not have consciously known that's what this means, but that's what it means. Because we're in an aquarium. This is the aquarium that we live in. The ecliptic, the sun, the moon. It's not what we think it is. But notice, the hangman in the tarot is the 12th card, which is the upside down cross, which is tied to the Truman Show, which is tied to the 3 spades and the 6 diamonds and everything I've shown you, and I'm going to be showing you a little bit more of that. But notice that Pisces is the 12th sign, the 12th hour on the clock strikes midnight, and then, let me zoom in, and then when you get hung upside down and you go down into, this is 13, this is Ophiuchus, this constellation right behind here, overlapping this graphic right here of the hangman and the upside down cross, this is the 13th sign. In your astrology wheel, in your natal chart, this would be the dead center. And this, remember folks, if you're into astrology, I hope you know this, but this is your eye. This is your eye. You have 2 of them. So you have your natal chart and then you have the current chart of the world, which is always constantly changing. Yours is fixed. Your left eye and your right eye. That's what these natal charts mean. And you have 2 black suns and you go down that hole into Wonderland, and you become a fish, part of the fallen angels. And you die because Ophiuchus is the 13th zodiac sign, which is linked to the 13th card, the death card. That's why death is 13. Because you die on this upside down cross, and you go down into the upside down world. But you got to become illuminated. And that's where you get into Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. Ophiuchus, the 13th symbol right here. See, the gold current goes all the way through, and this thing spins. And the gold current is constantly in a state of vibration. It's constantly moving, the wave, the up and down trough. I've shown this in my gold current decoded. This is the gold current, the serpent, the dragon, which is why Michael and Dragon share the same numerology. And 22 plus 22 is 44. And gold is 17, which equals fish, which is what we are. And Ophiuchus is 44, controlling the gold current. Here's a rendition of it with the actual cross and the Christ hanging upside down. Remember, folks, you see, Jesus, the story of Jesus, that came on the scene in the Piscean age, which is why the Catholics wear the fish hats, which is why in the New Testament it's all about the fish and casting the nets and catching the fish. And remember, the fish are linked to the element gadolinium, which is the 64th element, which is how many possible codons we have in our DNA. 64 squares on a chessboard, 64 numbers in the I Ching, tied to the human design system. But the cross, when you observe it, it's a T. But it's also the letter Y, because this is how some of the graphic illustrations are of the Christ on the cross. Is in that shape of the letter Y, which is tied to the number 25. The letter Y is the 25th letter in the English alphabet. I think I screwed up. I think I said the X was 25, but the X is 24, tied to our chromosomes. But the Y is tied to our chromosomes. And you see, when you go through this Pisces, see, this is all about surrendering to new perspectives. That's what this card means. You must surrender when you come down into Wonderland. You have no choice. You got no choice in the matter right now. I have no choice in the matter. The only thing I can do is become enlightened and aware of what's going on around me. I have no other choice. You don't have any other choices. All you can do is learn your power. That's all you can do. And you must surrender to new perspectives. The fish means duality because it's the two fish in Pisces. The two outstretched arms, the two sides of the cross. And that forms the letter Y, which is right here, 25. And that 12 and 13, which is the hangman and dying into the underworld, 12 plus 13 is 25. Truman Show. This is the Truman Show right here, folks. The upside down cross tied to St. Peter, tied to the Catholic Church, who delivered the canons of the Bible to the world in the year 382, somewhere around there. Decided upon by the Council of Nicaea. That whole story. So here is the, Peter's cross, Truman Show, Peter's 24. Tied to the element chromium, tied to the letter X, tied to our chromosomes. Chromium, chromosomes. Chromium means chroma, which means light, the color spectrum, because we're light being slowed down into physical matter in the upside down world. In the English, Peter's 64. That's how many possible codons we have in our DNA, which is tied to this element, the GD element. 153, that's the fish. Going fishing. There's the fish right there. Right there is the fish bladder, which is also tied to the element 50, tin, because tin is the merger of worlds, which is tied to the Vesica Piscis, and that's where this shape comes into play. Our double helix. It's our Satan and Jesus, or our Lucifer and Jesus. Our duality. Our tree of life and tree of knowledge, tied to the Truman Show. And there's that upside down cross once again, tied to St. Peter, tied to Truman. Because remember, folks, 42nd card, free Truman is 42. In Living Color, the first episode, is tied to the 6 diamonds card. They're all in the upside down cross position, which is owned by Kronos and his son Jupiter, or Zeus. Kronos and Zeus, Saturn and Jupiter. The bullseye of the upside down cross is tied to the Truman Show. There it is right there. Truman Burbank. The character that James Carey played is a 42. 42, which is the upside down cross. 42, there it is. Which is tied to St. Peter, which is tied to the hangman, which is tied to the fish, which is why he was all afraid of water. Got to get over that fear of water, buddy. Which he did. The movie was released on June 1st. In America, it was June 5th, but it was released in Mexico on June 1st. Look at what card it was, folks. That's the 3 spades card. And, just so you know, I'm not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. Here it is, June 1st. 3 spades. 3 spades. 3 spades. 3 spades, upside down cross. Upside down world. We're in the upside down world. And we've lost all our memory. He lost all his memory of why he was there in the show. I mean, there's the 2 cards. I've been showing this. This is the first episode of In Living Color that made this guy famous, is the 6 diamonds card. Upside down cross. Tied to the 3 spades. Tied to this movie. And again, 42 and 32 gives you the number 74, which is illumination. Truman Burbank is a 42. That's tied to lead, molybdenum, and in the string of pi, the 97 appears at the 12th decimal digit of pi. Molybdenum has an atomic weight of 97. Tied to the hangman, folks. So see, we're lead, slowed down. where light beings slow down into physical matter called lead, turning lead into gold. And then we land in pi, which is the underworld, which is Wonderland, the infinite circle potential. And that's tied, the 97 is tied to the 12, which is the hangman. 12 and 13, which, I showed that being right there. We have to surrender to new perspectives, going down into Wonderland, and we must do so through death. Our spiritual death, we have to go into the physical, which is tied to the 42. And if you've seen the show or the movie, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that clip, the book, the supercomputer was asked, what's the secret to life? After 7.5 million years, which is tied to the constellations, the 12 constellations, 7.5 million years, it was the number 42. That was the secret. 42. Now you know why. It's all tied to this right here, folks. It's the upside down St. Peter's cross. It's the hangman. We're in the upside down world, and that's what Truman was in. When you do the alchemology of Truman Burbank, 13 letters, that's tied to the death card. Going over to the trusty calculator, you get the number 86.073. 86 is found at the 74th decimal digit of pi. That is illumination. So now we get into the last topic, I think, and this is the exit. Thanks for sticking with me. I'm at an hour and 20 minutes already, but here is the exit. This is the ending of the movie. And this is a gem to discover. He finds the exit door after going past his phobia of the water and his ascension process. And the word exit is tied to the devil card. And this card, folks, the symbology on this card. If you look at this card, there's the male-female, and the chains that are around the necks of the male-female, they're not tight, they're loose, which symbolically tells you that you can take them off anytime you want. You're under the control of the devil, but you can take them off anytime you want. And the interpretation of this, you can exit the game anytime you want. When you take the chains off, the bondage. Because you see, life is but a dream. This game that we're playing, as real as it is, it's all in your mind. So exits of 15, exits of 58 in the English. Of course, 58's tied to Lucifer, who's tied to the devil. And, the 58 through the string of pi, it appears at the 10th and 11th decimal digit, which is 21, which is tied to the world card. You're live to the whole world. But anyway, it's the Wheel of Fortune card, spinning that wheel, deciding your fate. What are you going to choose? Well, I want to get the hell out of here. A lot of you don't want to be here anymore. I don't blame you. Place has a lot of suffering to it. When you say that, you can, it's really interesting with the word exit because, obviously we spell it E-X-I-T, but you could, clearly when you say these letters, X-it, it's the same thing. X-it, I don't need the E. X-it, it's a 10, which is tied to the Wheel of Fortune card, which is tied to the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh. I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to spin the wheel. I want to exit. I want to exit the box, the tetragrammaton. The square. Exit is a 55. That's tied to the Yod and the 10. Because 55 is the 10th Fibonacci number. Remember, folks, they say, a lot of people say 10, Satan, say 10, say 10. Satan. Exit. Exit that mindset. Exit that mindset. And, there is that 55 being the 10th Fibonacci number. Exit. Exit. And remember, X is tied to our chromosomes. X, it. It. What is it? X, it. 14 is tied to the word God. tied to the word Satan. Exit. Satan. It is God and Satan. Exit that. It's also tied to our pineal gland, folks. You see, X-it. It's all about the it. I-T. X-it. I want to get the hell out of here. I want to X-it. I want to leave it behind. I mean, X, the 10th card is the X. I'm going to X it. 10. Remember, NASA's 10. Satan. But it's tied to the pineal, the third eye, folks. Ascension. Pi, Neil. Pi. Pi, Neil. 14. 14. I want to exit the game. This is how you exit. Becoming illuminated. And there's the breakdown of the word Satan. Satan. The game. 55. 55. Satan. 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 14. Exit. 14. Pineal. 14. The wheel. When you do it through the English, X it. X is 24 chromosomes. It. X it. 9 and 20. This is what you're going to be exiting. According to the interpretation of the words and the cards. X it. This is it. You want to exit it? Through the interpretation of the cards and the English, this is how you exit. The old man on the mountain and judgment. So, in order to exit the game, do we get judged? Do we get judged? That's why, it's possible that there's some merit to that story. So, what do? Be a good person. Be of service to the world. Love your neighbor. Love yourself. Love other people. Stop judging other people. Which may be what this is all about. Stop judging other people. What's going on in our world right now? It's a big shit show. And many of you are judging everybody. They're just doing their freaking job. Trump is doing his job. Why are you judging the guy? A lot of you call him names. You don't even have to say it, but in your mind, you're saying it. You're judging the dude. Okay. But he's just playing out his part, folks. He's doing his job. That's his job. To cause division, to cause disruption. So why would you want to judge that? So that's what this could mean. You want to exit it? Stop judging. Become a wise person. And, it's tied to the element iodine. Exit. 53. I am that I am. So this was the statement that Jim Carrey completely said before he exited the world stage. In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, good night. It's has 53 letters tied to this iodine, tied to the word exit when you break it down this way. And then, the 587, which is the total numerology of that statement he said before he exited the world stage, is the 107th prime number. And 107 is tied to the fish, because 17 is fish. Gold is fish. Even Lucifer, the element lutetium, is 71. 1 and 7 are the colors of the rainbow, red through violet, where light being slowed down into physical matter. And that's where iodine comes into play, folks. Again, I'm going to go back and show this. There it is. In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, good night. 53 letters. He tried to exit. He exited the stage. 53. So then we tie that to iodine, right there. Iodine is a 23. Iodine is a 56. When you do the alchemology of iodine, you get tetragrammaton. You even get the 57 because 49 is found at the 57th decimal digit. That's tied to Truman Show. It's tied to the Truman Show. And, here's the 10 again. Iodine. Iodine. That's how you say that. Iodine. Iodine. I-O. 10. Say 10. That would be Satan right there, folks. It's both. And this is my last slide before I ask you what you see. It's been a very long presentation, my longest one ever. And I hope you had a lot of aha moments. I hope your eyes are open now. And realize that the beast is tied to many things. It's this system. And there's no separation between the creator of the system and the system itself, because it's a game. And in order to win the game, you need to become illuminated. And, the beast is the devil, tied to the exit. So you want to leave the game, you got to leave the devil behind. And the devil is the creator of this world. And that's not any disrespect to the creator of this world, whatever it is, this software. And, we may end up being asleep. We may be in a dream, and this is all just a fabrication of that dream. But the numbers speak, the cards speak, pi speaks, prime numbers speak. And for me, and probably for you, that's the only real tangible ways we're going to be able to figure this out. And, this is the beast. And we're in 666, which is the box. We live in 666. We live in the lower chakra points. Red, yellow, orange, and green. That's the box. Which is why hell is denoted as red and orange. It's fire. It's the root chakra. You want to rise up, and you want to take the chains off, and you want to exit the beast. And, this says it all right here, folks. In the medicine deck, the 52 cards in the medicine deck, this is the wolf card. And, like the wolf in sheep's clothing. You want to exit the game, you got to figure out who the wolf is. That's the beast. A lot of illusions. Even the X, even an upside down pentagram is the third eye for the devil card. So in order to leave and exit the world stage, you got to take the chains off. And the chains are based upon your beliefs, my beliefs. And that's why the wolves, they go hunt sheep. Are you a sheep? See, I'd rather be a wolf. I'd rather be a wolf because I don't want to be hunted. I just want to be a neutral wolf and just exit the game. What about you? So, what did you see during this presentation? I know I could have done a better job on presenting this information to you because there's just so much. And I had over 80 slides, and I went, it's been an hour and a half since I've been going through this presentation. What did you see? And the story that was called The Truman Show, do you see what I see? What it really means? And this is the game of life, folks. We're playing it. And we lose our memory when we come down through Peter's cross, the upside down cross, into Wonderland. And life is cyclical. And in order to exit, you got to take the chains off, the bondage. His chains were fear of the water. He overcame that and he got to exit the stage. Is that what we do? Is that what we do? So that's all I got for today. My name is Logan. This is Decode Your Reality. Thank you so very much for watching.